Moving on to episode 6, Seiya held another meeting with several department heads. This time, he wanted to discuss the lack of staff after previously addressing the funding shortage. Ashi asked if Seiya had hired some new people yesterday. However, Seiya said they could only fill specific positions. Meanwhile, the park still had a shortage of employees in other roles. Therefore, Seiya would conduct a recruitment drive tomorrow. After the announcement yesterday, Esuzu had a dream about Seiya conducting the recruitment. In the dream, she saw 3 beautiful girls who wanted to become secretaries to replace her. In this dream, Seiya welcomed them all happily. Seiya even declared that he no longer needed Isuzu. Isuzu panicked and pulled out her gun. Upon waking from her dream, it turned out that Isuzu had actually shot her roof. Isuzu didn't understand why she had such a dream, but if she thought about it, after going through many things with Seiya, Isuzu started to have feelings for him. After that, Isuzu went to the cafeteria for breakfast. Macaron, who had just arrived, couldn't believe that Isuzu was having curry here. Isuzu said she suddenly wanted curry today. Macaron reminded her to be careful as Wanabe had previously tried the curry here and found it too spicy. While chatting, Macaron sat down with Isuzu for breakfast. He tried to make small talk with Isuzu, but she responded flatly and without enthusiasm. Macaron became curious if Isuzu didn't like socializing. He believed that Isuzu was the type of person who was quiet because she overthought things. Suddenly, Macaron pretended to point out that Seiya was behind Isuzu. When Isuzu was fooled and turned to look behind, Macaron took the opportunity to put something in Isuzu's curry. Isuzu then continued her activities by going to school. In the schoolyard, she met one of her friends. Her friend noticed that Isuzu seemed down today. Honestly, Isuzu told her that she had a bad dream. The curry for breakfast was not good, and she was gossiped about by one of her colleagues. For some reason, Isuzu also told her that she was always unsure whether she had met Seiya's expectations or not. Isuzu herself didn't understand why she was sharing about Seiya with her friend. Suddenly, Isuzu ran back outside of the school. Meanwhile, Maffa was training the 4 Elementario fairies to dance. Macaron and Tirami were also watching. At that moment, Macaron told Tirami that he had given Isuzu a secret heart fruit. Initially, Macaron wanted to use the fruit to know his child's true feelings. He wanted to take custody of his child from his ex-wife. However, before doing that, Macaron wanted to try it on Isuzu first. By the way, the fruit could make someone speak what was in their heart forcibly. Unfortunately, Macaron didn't get to see the effect because Isuzu had already gone to school. Unbeknownst to them, Isuzu had returned to the park and was behind them. As usual, Isuzu ruthlessly fired her gun. For some reason, Moffel also got shot. Seiya arrived at Elementario due to the commotion. Isuzu then reported that they had given the secret heart fruit without her knowledge. Seiya didn't fully understand what was happening, but he requested Isuzu to come to the administrative office. The recruitment interview would start in an hour. Isuzu became even more panicked upon hearing this. Her current condition made her speak the truth involuntarily. Isuzu was worried that she might suddenly say something strange, like her feelings for Seiya. Before she could finish that sentence, Isuzu immediately covered her mouth and banged her head on the floor. In the end, Isuzu still participated in the interview process. Besides Isuzu and Seiya, Moffel also joined in the interviews. Their first applicant was a failed mayoral candidate in a recent election. He planned to start a new life in the park and aspire to become prime minister someday. Moffel thought it was impossible, but Isuzu was quite impressed by his determination. Just from Isuzu's words, Seiya immediately accepted the man. He said his resilience would make him a good fit for the park. The next applicant was a baseball player who had failed in his recent competition. The player continued to cry and complain about his failures. Moffel thought it had nothing to do with the park, but Isuzu said high school athlete tears could be motivating. Seiya then accepted the applicant, stating that employees should be able to emotionally motivate visitors. Next, there was a wrestler who had been fired. The wrestler was timid and had difficulty applying wrestling holds to his opponents. He felt sorry for his opponents who got locked in holds. Moffel was puzzled as to why he wanted to become a wrestler. Isuzu wasn't too keen on accepting the wrestler because they already had the masked character Okuro. Moffel didn't understand why that was a consideration. Seiya then asked the wrestler to remove his mask. However, the wrestler suddenly transformed into a brave persona and refused to take off his mask. He would rather die than remove it. So Seiya called Okuro to come over. Okuro and the wrestler wrestled each other. Strangely, the wrestler was able to perform holds, contrary to what he had previously claimed. As a result, Seiya hired the wrestler. Moffel didn't expect the park to be so short-staffed. The recruitment process continued. The next applicant was a ninja from Aiga. Without hesitation, he was immediately accepted by Saya. The subsequent applicants were also odd characters, until finally there was an applicant who appeared normal. She was Adaki Aiko, a long-haired woman who looked similar to Isuzu's dream. From her CV, Aiko had previously worked at a talent agency and appeared in a film production. Saya wanted to know more about the film in question. Nonchalantly, Aiko mentioned that she made adult videos AV. Saya and Moffel were certainly taken aback by this, but they tried to maintain their professionalism. When asked, Aiko revealed that she had been doing that job for 10 years. Moffel got excited and urged Saya to ask for her stage name. However, Saya clearly couldn't do that. Saya, unsure of what to ask, saw Isuzu's assistance, but Isuzu herself was currently in a panic. Aiko seemed like one of the job candidates that appeared in her dream. Isuzu was even pessimistic about being fired, thinking her secretary position would be replaced. Nevertheless, once again, Isuzu covered her mouth and banged her head. It seemed that Aiko felt her previous job was too enjoyable. Saya and Moffel were taken aback by this statement. Aiko stated that she wanted to see her clients enjoy themselves directly, and in the end, Aiko was hired to work here. Shortly after that, Moffel received a message on his phone. It turned out he had sent Aiko's photo to Toriken for verification. Toriken was indeed a figure in the adult video industry. The next applicant was a high school girl who also seemed normal. She was Bandu Biino. However, Biino also looked like the girl from Saya's dream. Saya liked her cheerful nature. Suddenly, Saya noticed something slightly concerning. There appeared to be blood on the left side of Biino's uniform. Biino claimed that she was in a hurry and had just scratched herself. However, there was also red liquid on Biino's hand, splattered on Saya's desk. Biino insisted that she was fine and said she had risked everything for this interview. She couldn't leave without being accepted. In the end, Saya accepted Biino, and she was taken to the ambulance. Suddenly, a strange man entered the room with a knife. It turned out to be Biino's brother, who tried to prevent her from working. As he approached, Saya immediately kicked him, followed by Isuzu's shot, and finally, Moffel's punch. After the incident, Saya, Isuzu, and Moffel discussed Biino a bit. Even though they had to accept Biino, Isuzu believed she deserved the chance. She kept smiling throughout the interview despite being stabbed. Her determination would be beneficial for the park. Saya was quite surprised by Isuzu's ability to assess people. However, he wondered why Isuzu couldn't apply the same standards to herself. Unbeknownst to them, the next applicant had entered the room. And once again, Isuzu realized that there was another applicant resembling the one from her dream. Based on her uniform, the girl seemed to be from Amaji High School. She was Chuju Shina. Judging from her demeanor, it seemed Shina was a shy girl. However, Isuzu didn't mind because the park lacked female employees. Also, Isuzu was confident that Shina couldn't charm Saya. Before she could finish her thought, Isuzu once again covered her mouth and banged her head. Consequently, Shina was accepted. After Saya and Isuzu finished sorting through the documents, Isuzu started to think about Saya's earlier comments about her. This morning, Makaran also warned her about becoming reserved due to overthinking. It was true, Isuzu didn't know how to interact with others. That's why she often resorted to shooting her gun. However, according to Saya, assessing someone and interacting with them were two different things. Honestly, Isuzu was envious of Saya in many ways. That's why she liked Saya. And the same thing happened again. Isuzu banged her head before completing her sentence. Meanwhile, Moffel, Makaran, and Tirami, who were trying to find Aiko's video, were unsuccessful. They found a plump and unattractive girl with a stage name. On the other hand, Isuzu, who was also curious, directly asked Aiko for her stage name. Aiko replied that she used her real name in all her videos. Finally, Isuzu mustered the courage to search for Aiko's video on the internet based on her real name. Surprisingly, it turned out that AV Aiko mentioned was an animal video, not an adult video. The next day, the newly recruited employees were gathered for training by Moffel, Makaran, and Tirami. However, the three of them were pretending to train in a military style. As soon as they entered the room, Saya immediately stopped them. And as usual, the fight between Saya and Moffel was halted by Isuzu's gunshot. This frightened the new employees.